Hey, hey, Uncle Q got story time. When I was a kid, like maybe 7, 8 years old, we were whole family, my mother, my aunts, my cousins. We were all gonna go to Great America the next day. So the logic was everybody spends the night at my granny's house, and then we all leave together from my granny's house to go to Great America. That excitement, you 7, 8 years old, you going to Great America. Ooh. So it was summer, mid-July. It was hot. And back then, we didn't have no central heating. Hell, they didn't even have, my granny and my grandfather didn't even have a air conditioner that you put in the window. We had those white box fans. And at the time, they were, relatively cheap. They were like $10 a piece. And so back then, when it was real hot, we would go sit on the porch, try to catch a breeze, and then when the sun went down and it cooled off, you put the fans in the window and it pulls all the cool air from outside. And then you can sleep better in the summer. But anyway, so we're all on the porch. Now we're just hanging out, just chilling. So, and the names will not be revealed of the characters in this story to protect the innocent and, more importantly, to protect the guilty. All right? So, sitting on the porch, chilling, summer night. Me, aunts, my mother, look up the street, and there are 3 women coming up the street, and they're marching. Like the guys in the Malcolm X video, the brothers, they're marching. These women were marching. And there were 2 women who were maybe 5'5", 5'6", 5'7", and they were marching in front of this big old lady. She was big for a woman. She had to be 6 feet, 6'1". Okay, the big woman, we're gonna call her Gigi. One of the shorter women, we're gonna call her Roro. And the other woman, to this day, I don't know who that woman was, so we're gonna refer to her as the short woman. So anyway, they're marching down the street, they're marching. And we're looking, and I hear the adults, my aunt, saying, what are they doing? What is this? They're wondering what's going on. My aunt, who remained nameless, she gets up, runs up the steps into the house. We live, my granny and my grandfather had a 3-flat, so she runs up the steps of the porch, runs upstairs. Now everybody's looking around like, where did she go? Meanwhile, the other woman, Roro and Gigi, they still marching. And mind you, they lived on the corner, across the street on the corner of the block. We lived in the middle of the block. So they still march. They're getting closer. We're trying to figure out what's going on. My aunts and my grandmother, they're slowly coming down off the porch, standing in front of the house. They're trying to figure out what's going on. They want to see what's going on because they weren't in the streets, but, living where we lived at that time, they knew rather, something ain't right, something going on, something finna happen. So what happens? At that point, I look up, and my aunt literally comes out the house, jumps onto the porch. Now, my aunt had on a shirt, some shorts, some flip-flops. At this point, she jumps onto the porch like an action hero, and she got these little tight shorts and a tube top, which even at 7, 8 years old, I'm like, that something ain't right about this, because my aunt was a big woman. She wasn't that tall. My aunt was maybe 5'6", 5'7" also. So it didn't seem right that she would have this attire on at the time. She's coming down the steps. She's taking the steps two at a time, moving with a purpose, on a mission. My grandmother looks at her and says, well, what you doing? What's going on? My aunt don't say nothing. She's focused on the other woman, Roro and Gigi, marching up the street. Because I was 7, 8 years old, unbeknownst to me, and to some degree unbeknownst to my grandmother and my aunts and my mother, there was ongoing beef between these three and my aunt. You know, back then it was just, you know, you had neighborhood beef. And it wasn't like it is now. Nobody was going to get stabbed. Nobody was going to get shot. At very worst, you know, y'all going to scrap it out. Y'all might shoot one-on-one. They might try to sneak in, jump on you. But it wasn't no pistol play, wasn't no knives. So my aunt stands in front of everyone in front of the house. And I'm standing there like, you know, ooh, what's going on? I'm excited. Heart's beating fast. What's happening? This is better at the time. This is better than any action movie I'd ever seen in my life. Better than any TV show. Live action. Like, whoa, whoa. Right? So they approached, and it was like out of a movie. The other woman and Roro move out of the way, and Big Gigi steps forward. Now Gigi's lips were moving, and I didn't hear what Gigi was saying, and I don't think nobody else heard what Gigi was saying, for the simple fact that when her mouth opened, my aunt proceeded to insert her fist in her mouth repeatedly, going to work. She knocks Gigi down. The other woman, she's just looking. I guess she thought that it was over. Gigi's so big. Gigi finna put in work on mine. No. Not gonna happen. She's punching and punching. Gigi falls onto the pavement. Other woman just looking in amazement. Roro decides that while my aunt is standing over Gigi, she's gonna jump on my aunt's back. My aunt do some Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, grab her by her hair, her perm back in the day. Wasn't no wigs then, wasn't no weaves then. She grabs her, 2 hands full of perm, and give her that Hadouken flip, right? She lands on the pavement. My auntie jumps on her and she going to work. Everybody's looking in amazement, and then like that, my aunts go to try to break it up. My aunt that was putting in that work, she pushes her sisters to the side, goes back to Big Gigi, working. Working. At this point, Gigi done had enough. She clawing and scraping, trying to get to her feet. The other woman just standing there looking. Gigi gets to her feet. She takes off down the block. Her cohorts, her partners, they take off with her. I'm like, wow. I ain't never seen nothing like that live before, right in front of me. Because we had the porch, and then you had they had a white cast iron gate. I was leaned on the gate, watching the whole thing. It was like a front row seat at a boxing match, and my aunt was the champ, working out. So when they take off, my aunt go to take off with them. Bear in mind now, my aunt doesn't have any shoes on, and she got this get-up on, which is what I found out later that was my aunt's going to work uniform. Put that on, it's going down. Found that out later. So my grandmother's trying to talk to her. My mother, my aunt, what's going on? They huddled up and they talking. I can't hear anything. I'm just on the outside of the little huddle. My mother looks up. Mother says, what the hell? Gigi, Roro, another woman, they got this huge pipe. Looks like a piece of a light pole. I don't know where they got it from to this day. But they got it, and 3 of them holding it on their shoulders and they marching with it. My aunt, she's trying to take off to get some more of that business. She's trying to make another fistful transaction with them. My mother grabs her arm. My aunt grabs the other arm and say, no, wait, no. Well, during that time, I do remember that her son's father was in the who's guy. He was in the joint. He was in prison. He was locked up. And she was holding on to his car. She was driving it as if it were hers. That was a 82 Cutlass Supreme. Big body. Blueberry on the outside. All white on the inside. Young carpet on the ceiling. Sitting at the time on Trues and Vogues. Because the baby daddy was out there getting it. We ain't got to get into that. He ain't here no more. But if you know, you know. And they marching. They come off the sidewalk and they're on the side of the street where the car is. And we're all looking like, what's going on? They take this big sewer pipe and they launch it like an Olympian throwing a javelin. I kid you not. The pipe goes through the back window, and it was so long it came out the windshield. My aunt that was putting in the work, she's screaming. My mother takes off and she says, I'm going to call the police. My other aunt, she says, oh, that's going to cost a lot of money. My grandmother looks at it and says, oh, Lord. Gigi, Roro, another woman, take off up the street. Now, the only thing that got me about this whole thing is, at the end of the day, the big body was going to fit all us in there so we can go to Great America. But there's a hole in the back window and there's a hole in the windshield, completely undrivable at this point. And plus, you got an 8-year-old boy, a bunch of other kids, and a bunch of women. How y'all gonna get this pipe out this car without having to pay somebody? So there goes the Great America budget, because now everybody got to kick in to get this pipe out the car and to get the windshield and the back window fixed. So needless to say, there was no Great America. But man, my auntie put that work in, man. Up until that point, I had never seen my aunt get down. I didn't even think it was possible. Mom was always cracking jokes and making you laugh and making good out of a bad situation. But at that point, that night, she was with all the drama and she wanted it to be that bad situation. She was all for the bad situation. How the kids say, she wanted all the smoke. And never got to go to Great America. But hey, things happen. Till next time, like, comment, subscribe. So I'm queuing them out.